Welcome to Conspiracy Tapes by Skoob. I'm your host, Ryan Martin, and today we're diving deep into one of the most secretive yet influential organizations on Earth, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, better known as DARPA. What you're about to hear will challenge everything you think you know about the boundaries of science, technology, and human enhancement. Picture this, a small, unassuming building in Arlington, Virginia. No flashy signs, no military fanfare. Yet, from within these walls flows a river of innovation that has shaped our modern world in ways most of us can't even imagine. This is DARPA, and if you've never heard of it, that's exactly how they like it. Established by Congress in 1958, DARPA operates with a simple but terrifying mandate. Ensure the United States is never caught off guard by scientific advancements anywhere on the planet. With an annual budget of $3 billion, this organization wields more influence over military technology than any other entity in America. But here's what makes DARPA truly unique, and frankly, a little unsettling. Unlike typical research agencies, DARPA doesn't actually conduct research itself. Instead, it functions as a puppet master, employing defense contractors, academics, and government organizations to do the heavy lifting. Think of it as the ultimate outsourcing operation for military science. The entire agency runs on just 120 program managers at any given time. These aren't your average bureaucrats. They're accomplished scientists who hold extraordinary power. Each serves roughly 5 years, and during that time, they can independently decide to start, continue, or kill research projects worth millions of dollars. No committees, no endless approvals, just pure, concentrated decision-making authority that would make a Fortune 500 CEO jealous. These 120 individuals manage thousands of scientists and engineers scattered across national laboratories, defense contractor facilities, and universities worldwide. The technologies they develop eventually flow to every branch of the military: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and intelligence agencies like the CIA, NSA, and others whose acronyms most people couldn't even pronounce. Now, DARPA is masterful at managing its public image. You'll see headlines about tiny implants that give human self-healing powers, or incredible jumping robots for disaster relief. Feel-good stories about health and humanitarian aid. But make no mistake, these are carefully crafted narratives designed to obscure DARPA's primary mission: developing advanced weapons systems. Yes, DARPA gave us the Internet, GPS, and stealth technology, but those breakthroughs are decades old. What they're working on now, what they're really working on, remains largely hidden from public view. And that's where our story begins to get truly fascinating, and more than a little frightening. Let's talk about something that lives at the intersection of hard science and conspiracy theory: the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, better known as HAARP. And yes, it's funded by DARPA. On the surface, HAARP appears to be a research facility studying the ionosphere, that layer of charged particles surrounding our planet. The official story is benign: improving communications, understanding atmospheric phenomena, purely academic research. The Department of Defense insists HAARP isn't intended for military use, pointing to university partnerships and scientific publications. But conspiracy theorists see something far more sinister. They claim HAARP's high-frequency emissions can be combined with extremely low-frequency waves to do much more than improve radio communications. According to these theories, HAARP can transmit specific brain frequencies to entire urban populations, undermining mental health on a massive scale. The theory goes like this: New World Order agencies could use HAARP to project ELF waves that induce specific emotions: anger, paranoia, depression, making populations vulnerable to control or invasion. Essentially, mood manipulation on a citywide scale. But the conspiracy theories don't stop at mind control. Theorists like Nick Begich and Gene Manning argue that HAARP is being explored for weather control, climate disruption, melting polar ice caps, earthquake engineering, and mass brainwave manipulation. They believe HAARP is responsible for major natural disasters: the Myanmar cyclone in 2008, the China earthquake that same year, the devastating Haiti earthquake in 2010, and the Fukushima disaster in 2011. According to these theorists, HAARP operates as a three-component weapon system. First, a space-based component that weaponizes Earth's ionosphere. Second, an air-based component using chemtrails as frequency reflectors. Third, ground-based energizing stations in Alaska, Greenland, Norway, and Australia. The most chilling claim? That HAARP can target specific cities, individual buildings, even specific human beings with electromagnetic harassment and mood manipulation. Now, I'm not here to validate or debunk these theories. But what's undeniable is that DARPA's involvement in ionospheric research raises legitimate questions about dual-use technologies, research that appears civilian but has clear military applications. The line between scientific inquiry and weapons development has always been blurrier than the public realizes. Now, we venture into territory that sounds like pure science fiction, but comes from sources claiming direct involvement in classified programs. In 2011, revelations emerged about a covert CIA program from the early 1980s that allegedly enabled human visitation to Mars. And here's where it gets really interesting. A young man named Barry Soetoro, better known today as Barack Obama, was supposedly part of these Mars expeditions. The primary sources for these claims are Andrew D. Basiago, a Washington state lawyer who says he participated in Project Pegasus, DARPA's alleged time travel project during the 1970s, and his colleague William B. Stillings. Both claim they saw Barry at United States outposts on Mars between 1981 and 1983. According to their account, 10 teenagers participated in this program, receiving preparatory education at the College of the Siskiyous near Mount Shasta in California. Among these 10 was Regina Dugan, who later became the 19th and first female director of DARPA, appointed by Barack Obama in 2009. Coincidence? The theorists think not. The training allegedly culminated in using a jump room at a Hughes aircraft facility near Los Angeles International Airport to teleport to Mars. Basiago describes the early U.S. installations on Mars as basic, resembling the embryonic stage of a mining operation, with structures designed to eventually become a permanent base. The stated purpose? Establishing territorial claims on Mars and acclimating the planet's alleged humanoid and simpler life forms to human presence. During his time there, Basiago claims to have encountered CIA operative Courtney M. Hunt, who was managing aspects of the project. Other figures allegedly spotted on Mars include Michael Relf, supposedly a U.S. military security team member who spent 2 decades on Mars, and Arthur Newman, a former Department of Defense scientist who has publicly claimed he teleported to Mars facilities. Perhaps most intriguingly, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, great-granddaughter of President Dwight D. Eisenhower, claims that in 2006, she was approached by government officials about Mars bases and recruited to travel there. She ultimately declined what she describes as an invitation to join a secret U.S. colony on Mars, allegedly housing around 500,000 individuals. These accounts are impossible to verify and strain credibility, but they raise fascinating questions about the intersection of advanced technology, classified programs, and the individuals who later rise to positions of power. Whether true or not, they reflect a deep suspicion about what DARPA and related agencies might be capable of achieving behind the veil of national security. Let's shift from speculative to documented. DARPA's very real and ongoing efforts to enhance human cognition and treat brain injuries. In 2013, DARPA collaborated with the White House on the Brain Initiative, boldly declaring the following years as the Decade of the Brain. The stated goal: revolutionize understanding of the human mind and develop treatments for Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, autism, epilepsy, and traumatic brain injury. Noble goals, certainly. But remember, DARPA's primary mission isn't curing mental illness, it's advancing weapons technology. The Restoring Active Memory Program, or RAM, focuses on developing implantable wireless neuroprosthetics to remedy amnesia in brain-injured military personnel. Volunteers have microscopic devices, essentially microchips, surgically implanted in their brains. Similar surgical implantations are required for the Repair Program, which focuses on understanding how the brain performs computations, and Remind, the restorative encoding memory integration neural device. DARPA has declined requests for interviews with brain-injured soldiers involved in these projects, and they've provided minimal details about the programs themselves. What we do know is deeply concerning from a privacy and autonomy perspective. Consider the Subnets program, systems-based neurotechnology for emerging therapies, designed to treat PTSD. This involves surgically implanting multiple electrodes into various brain regions, alongside a microchip positioned between the brain and skull. These chips can wirelessly transmit data to operations centers, where technicians can remotely administer electrical impulses to different areas of a soldier's brain. Think about that for a moment. Remote electrical stimulation of a human brain. It's essentially a contemporary, portable form of electroshock therapy, but controlled by operators who could be hundreds or thousands of miles away from the patient. DARPA envisions devices that can perform near real-time recording, analysis, and stimulation of brain activity. The applications for this technology extend far beyond treating PTSD. If you can remotely monitor and stimulate a brain, you're approaching something that looks remarkably like remote control of human behavior. According to Pentagon statistics, mental disorders are the leading cause of hospital bed occupancy among military personnel and the second leading cause of medical interactions. This crisis has accelerated DARPA's development of brain implants, but the potential applications extend far beyond medical treatment. Remember, DARPA's primary function isn't soldier rehabilitation. That's the Department of Veterans Affairs' job. DARPA exists to create and prevent strategic surprises, developing sophisticated weapons systems for future warfare. When viewed through this lens, their neuroscience programs take on a much more ominous character. During my conversation with Michael Goldblatt, who previously led enhancement programs at DARPA, we discussed the agency's efforts to create what can only be described as cyborg soldiers. Under Goldblatt's leadership, several programs aimed at augmenting human performance were launched: persistence in combat, mechanically dominant soldier, and continually assisted performance. But the most fascinating and troubling area is augmented cognition, or AugCog, DARPA's systematic effort to merge human brains with machine intelligence. AugCog represents the cutting edge of human-machine interfacing, a field the Pentagon calls human-robot interaction. DARPA has already achieved remarkable breakthroughs with biohybrid creatures, remote-controlled rats and moths that can be steered like living drones. Now, they're applying these same principles to human beings. DARPA's exploration of brain-computer interfaces dates back to the 1970s, but revolutionary advances have emerged in the 21st century, particularly due to breakthroughs in nanobiotechnology. By 2004, DARPA articulated an objective of achieving orders of magnitude increases in available net thinking power arising from human-machine dyads, human-machine partnerships where the boundaries between biological and artificial intelligence begin to blur. Several programs emerged from this vision, including the Cognitive Technology Threat Warning System and Neurotechnology for Intelligence Analysts. Participants wear wireless EEG caps that emit electrical pulses to enhance cognitive processes. DARPA found that this non-invasive brain-computer interface significantly accelerated human cognition, enabling soldiers and intelligence agents to think with increased speed and precision. However, these devices proved cumbersome and inconvenient, leaving residue on users' scalps. The solution? Brain implants. More efficient, more permanent, more invasive. By 2014, DARPA announced that the future of brain-computer interface technologies depended on integrating their various brain programs. This raised critical questions. Was DARPA conducting intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions within the human brain itself? Could these efforts yield the breakthrough needed to achieve true artificial intelligence? The answer may lie in a 2008 report by DARPA's Jason scientists. They evaluated brain-computer interfaces and noted that while external devices like EEG caps were effective, the data they provided was noisy and degraded. More invasive methods, a microelectrode array implanted into the cortex with connections to a feed-through pedestal on the skull, would yield much more precise results. The Jasons concluded that chip-in-the-brain initiatives could enable predictable, high-quality brain control to become reality. Once this barrier is breached, the applications in areas like hunter-killer drone warfare could be unlimited. But the Jason scientists issued a stark warning. An adversary might use invasive interfaces in military applications. An extreme example would be the remote guidance or control of a human being. They advised the Pentagon to refrain from this pursuit without substantial ethical debate. The parallels to their Vietnam War-era advice are striking. When Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara asked the Jasons about using nuclear weapons against the Ho Chi Minh Trail, they advised against it, warning it could lead to nuclear terrorism. Similarly, in 2008, they predicted that brain control programs might fail due to ethical concerns within the military. The question is, did DARPA heed their warning, or did they simply take these programs deeper underground? Let's explore one of DARPA's most ambitious goals, enhancing human memory itself. For military personnel, especially those in combat, an enhanced memory isn't just valuable, it's potentially life-saving. Fighter pilots must retain vast amounts of information while operating in target-rich, threat-dense environments where split-second decisions determine survival. DARPA has funded BrainGate, previously known as cyberkinetics, in experiments where monkeys operate computer cursors using only their thoughts. While this technology is currently being used to grant paralyzed individuals neural control over computers, it hints at something far more profound, directly linking human brains to computer memory systems. Imagine having access to additional RAM, random access memory, directly integrated with your biological brain. In information-dense environments like urban combat zones, soldiers could access vast databases of tactical information, building layouts, enemy positions, and strategic data in real time without any external devices. In 2009, DARPA sought proposals for systems that could optimize human memory and recall by synchronizing neural brainwaves. Gamma waves facilitate memory creation, while theta waves help transition memories from short-term to long-term storage. DARPA envisioned a compact, portable system that could present information in sequences designed to synchronize these brainwaves and enhance memory retention. But the most ambitious concept involves silicon-based memory enhancements, often called brain prostheses. These chips are designed to substitute for impaired brain regions, particularly the hippocampus, which processes experiences into stored memories. The University of Southern California team, funded by DARPA, the Office of Naval Research, and the National Science Foundation, spent a decade developing this system. They mapped the input-output processes of rat brain slices, then encoded this information onto a chip that can bypass disrupted neural circuits. The implementation involves connecting one side of an impaired hippocampus to the chip, then connecting the chip to another brain region, effectively allowing the artificial device to replace damaged biological circuits. While originally intended for stroke or epilepsy patients, the implications for enhancing normal brains are staggering. Currently, USC researchers are testing this system on rat hippocampus slices in laboratory conditions. They plan to extend testing to monkeys, observing behavioral changes linked to memory-related tasks. But the ultimate goal is clear: human implementation. Consider the implications. If DARPA can successfully integrate artificial memory systems with biological brains, they're not just treating medical conditions, they're fundamentally altering what it means to be human. Soldiers could have perfect recall of complex tactical information, instant access to vast databases, and memory capabilities far exceeding normal human limitations. But this technology raises profound questions. Who controls these artificial memories? Can they be remotely accessed, modified, or deleted? If a soldier's memories can be enhanced, can they also be manipulated or erased? The line between treatment and control becomes disturbingly thin. As we piece together DARPA's various programs, a disturbing picture emerges of the future battlefield. We're not just talking about better weapons or improved equipment. We're discussing fundamental alterations to human beings themselves. Imagine a soldier of the near future. Brain implants provide instant access to tactical databases and enable direct communication with command centers. Artificial memory systems ensure perfect recall of mission parameters and enemy positions. Augmented cognition interfaces allow rapid processing of multiple data streams simultaneously. Remotely controlled electrical stimulation manages fear, aggression, and other emotional responses in real time. This isn't science fiction. These are all technologies DARPA is actively developing right now. The convergence of these programs suggests DARPA is pursuing something unprecedented in human history: the systematic technological enhancement of human beings for warfare. But the implications extend far beyond the military. If brain-computer interfaces can enhance cognition and memory, they can also monitor thoughts and emotions. If electrical stimulation can treat PTSD, it can also induce specific mental states. If artificial memory systems can restore damaged recollections, they can also implant false ones. The dual-use nature of these technologies means that tools developed for enhancement and healing can easily become instruments of control and manipulation. And once these capabilities exist, the temptation to use them will be enormous. DARPA's small secretive structure makes oversight and accountability extremely difficult. With just 120 program managers making independent decisions about research directions, there are fewer checks and balances than in most government agencies. The classification of much of their work means public scrutiny is minimal. The questions we must ask are fundamental. Who will have access to these enhancement technologies? Will they remain limited to military applications, or will they spread to law enforcement, intelligence agencies, and eventually civilian populations? What safeguards exist to prevent abuse? And perhaps most importantly, what does it mean for human freedom and dignity when our minds can be monitored, enhanced, and potentially controlled by remote operators? DARPA works at the edge of the possible, from brain-computer interfaces and augmented cognition to ionospheric experiments and bold space ideas. Their breakthroughs have reshaped the world, and their secrecy keeps us guessing. Are these programs protecting us or remaking what it means to be human? In the full episode, we trace the projects, the people, and the ethical fault lines you won't hear about elsewhere. Hear the untold experiments, leaked plans, and the scientists who warn us. If you think you know DARPA, think again. Want the full deep dive? Download the Skoob app now to get access to the complete story, extended interviews, and exclusive bonus material. Thanks for listening.